Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on Grimgar Fantasy and Ash, Episode 9. And this is really a much calmer episode. I mean, this series very much, I've had issues with the pacing all through the course of it, and I found, especially over the last couple of episodes, just, letting go of any of the frustrations I've had and really just settling mentally into the backdrop and what little we do get of the characterization. I feel like this was its strongest episode thus far into really putting on display certain character aesthetics to really spell out the personalities of some of these characters. And I find it very interesting, the contrasts going on, whereas you have like Ranta, it's all about them taking the day off, and Ranta is going fishing, which is a very calm, subdued kind of pastime. For the most part, you're just kind of laying around waiting to get a bite from a fish. And he's much more, at least what we've seen, throughout the course of the series, is he's much more boisterous, he's much more outspoken, loudmouthed, and it seems almost contrary to his nature. But this is something he looks to for relaxation, and I find that quite interesting. It really spells out a level of his nature. He's kind of loudmouthed all the time amongst others and everything like that, but if he has some time to himself, he's going to take that time off by himself and just be contemplative, and relaxed, and I really find that intriguing. Similarly, do we see Yume is going rock climbing, and again, it's something that is kind of against type with what we know of her. She is not nearly as timid as the other girl, whose name I still am having trouble remembering, with the purple hair. I refer to as Timid Girl, but she's not timid like that. That's not quite her nature, but at the same time, she is somewhat soft-spoken. She is somewhat, you could almost say, airheaded to a point, and certain of those aesthetics are charming in her character portrait. So to see her then having this whole, there is a rock, I will climb it sort of mentality, and the skills you see on display, even Ranta himself, because it just so happens to coincide that this cliff face she's climbing up is right beside the little brook or whatever it is that Ranta is in the boat, doing his fishing, and he's watching in awe. And I'm very much feeling like him. I'm like, wow, this is quite interesting, learning much more about the interests these characters have. This is something I've been gunning for, and a lot of my complaints have revolved around these are the kinds of things I wish we would have had given to us, these hints, since the very beginning of the series. To have them now, at least, it's something that I've really been enjoying. With the Big Lug, again, name I can't quite remember, call him Big Moose, with his wood carvings and everything like that. And he's got a little carving of one of the, what I guess we're loosely calling cats in the Grimgar world, but they look much more like aardvarks to me. But they come complete with the meowing and everything, so whatever. Whatever floats your boat. And there were some really great poignant moments between Haruhiro and like Mary and the timid girl, purple-haired timid girl, going to that bridge where, she had a nice moment with Minato previously, feeding the birds, and she continues to go there and she enjoys seeing, the sunrise and the sunset, and that nice little moment between them about sharing the promise of, we want to continue working together, we want to be a team, be friends. That really resonated very well for me. I really enjoyed that. And speaking of sunrises and sunsets, we have this whole musical montage once again, and it was a scenario where I actually really enjoyed it. The calmness and the pacing of it, and it was really calling back to me, ironically enough, one of my favorite films, Before Sunrise. Just that calm idea of traveling around this sort of wondrous town, this foreign town, much as was the case in that film. You're dealing with Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy basically roaming around Europe, or France, or whatever it is. And it was captivating to me, and there was some essence of that with the music and with Haruhiro just, taking a lazy day off and finding his way around this particular town. That really I really enjoyed. Now, I'm somebody who has time and time and time again, I've spent many lengthy, videos discussing the poor pacing as I saw it. And I feel like this is what I wish the show was, what every episode was since the beginning, where it is a much more clever mixture of that pacing, but also giving us, in increments, characterization. Letting us in and getting to know these characters through their interests and these kinds of things. This was a pitch perfect episode in answer to everything I have had as complaints go. So I really am left by the end of it unable to really complain about any of it. I thoroughly enjoyed the episode. The sort of chief aspect as far as, character moments goes for me was, of course, Haruhiro and Mary. He stumbles onto her. When she's talking about her lodgings being for women only, I'm like, oh, let's get Haruhiro and Ranta to do a Grimgar bosom buddies kind of situation. If you're familiar with that show, Peter Scolari and Tom Hanks from back in the 80s. I digress. But that would be pretty hilarious given the scenario, seeing these boys dressing in drag just to have cheap lodgings, And just their character moments, like I say, there is almost the hint of interest, like potentially romantic interest. I thought I was perceiving very minute amounts of which I don't know if that's, intentional here, but whereas Haruhiro is definitely coming across as being attracted to Mary, I was getting the perception that Mary is kind of feeling the same way. Maybe a little bit. And the whole aspect of them realizing now, we've gotten this down to a formula, this goblin attack. Where else can we go? Where is somewhere nearby that would be new ground, new territory to break and start getting used to and moving outside of our comfort zone now that we have everything down to a science? Because there has to be more. This can't just be our existence from now until forever. And they're talking about the Sidian mines, where effectively this really is disheartening to Mary. She's very quiet and she has to excuse herself, and of course it's because this is where the tremendous loss she suffered occurred. And I have to say, I was mad impressed that she wasn't portrayed as being, too afraid or copping out like, no, I don't want any part of this. She was very much, as long as you, my friends, are there to support me, and we go in as friends, as teammates, as comrades, as, for lack of a better term, kind of a family within this forcible scenario they all find themselves in, then I want to endure it. I want to conquer it. I want to challenge myself and move beyond this thing that has held me back for so long. And, I loved Mary in that moment. Because I'm somebody who does, at least I like to think, I try to put my best foot forward at every opportunity. I try to get through whatever I have to get through with my best efforts. And sometimes life is too stressful, and sometimes it's too much, and you need to give yourself a break. But in that moment, do we see a character to aspire toward? And arguably, that's something we haven't really seen in the series, necessarily, to my estimation, as of yet. So to have that, it's like, well, hell yes. And as a group, really as a group whole, their acceptance of Mary, I have been heard to say, why can't people really be like this? It's a scenario to aspire toward. Being open to other people, being open to conflicting views, being open to making friends with complete strangers who may have some common ground, some footing, that you can bridge that gap between you and all that kind of stuff. And that's very much what we had on display in this series, and that was very impressive to me when they accepted her in. It is that much more impressive to me that she has, been reciprocative of that. And now she is voicing her, needing to align herself to them as friends to be able to hopefully conquer this thing that holds her back. Love it. Absolutely love it. And then, you would think, because my one sort of outshining accolades for episode 1 of the series was the introduction of Barbara and the training sequence between Haruhiro and Barbara, respectively, in that first episode. And so I was, at first, really happy to see Barbara back, as Haruhiro needs to learn the spider technique or skill, whatever it is, and at the risk of his own life, apparently. She's really into the BDSM and everything like that. Taking him to task more ways than one. Trying to get him to give small talk and talk about whether he likes the ladies and which of them, and does he want to, you know, kind of have a harem, or is he just going to pointedly look at one of them? Marry for the win. And it was like, it was really funny to me, but contrastingly toward everything else that was in the episode that I really thoroughly enjoyed, I felt it was very jarring to have all that highfalutin, you know, physical slapstick, you know, sort of, again, BDSM level comedy, for lack of a better term. Like, I should have really enjoyed that, because it's something I got a kick out of in episode 1, as I say, and it went a little over the top. It went a little too far. And while I like the Barbara character, it's just like, dial it back a little bit, because I loved everything else. I loved the vibe of everything else that was going on in the episode, and it just didn't feel as well fitted for this particular episode for me. But I can't really, that's about the only complaint I have, really, for the entirety of it. And otherwise, it was awesome. Another awesome episode. And I must say, you know, I've made efforts to just completely, I feel like I've spoken my piece about the problems and the qualms I've had in many a video prior to the last 2. And so I really just wanted to not, you know, stop reiterating myself and not look so in depth to the things that were unnerving me or disturbing me or, you know, not sitting well with me pacing wise and characterization wise, and just really take it for what it is in the moment, which is very much kind of the pacing of the series. It's very much what events unfold in the moment, the reactions of the characters to it. There is still a level of people very much taking their time in their conversing, and it feels a little unnatural at times, but for the most part, if there had been this, you know, clever medium from episode 1, for my own personal tastes, of this kind of slow, methodical pacing, little increments of characterization, and really gaining knowledge of the personality of the characters, seeing them interacting, seeing them overcoming these obstacles, the losses they've suffered, if there was a little bit more of a clever medium like this episode had on display throughout its entirety up until, you know, the Barbara training sequence, I might have much less had things to complain about all through the course of it. So, yeah, stellar episode overall. Only the minor gripe that it just felt a little jarring, having that, you know, crazy comedy sequence toward the end of the episode. And, of course, we see all the characters ready to head into the Siren Mines, so it's going to be very interesting to see if one of my speculations was correct, that, you know, we may see these characters facing something that effectively kills them. Will they wake up in the world they left behind? Will this all have been like a weird VR, you know, attached to their psyche video game? Is there something more to it? Are they in another world? Are these questions even going to be raised again and potentially hinted at or answered? I don't know, but I'm really on board to find out for the last stretch of episodes in the series. So otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.